The fluorescent lights of Jin's diner hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows across Naomi Sinclair's exhausted face. Her worn sneakers squeaked against the linoleum as she approached the counter, clutching $23, everything she had left until Friday's paycheck. Outside, through the frosted December window, her 10-year-old daughter Leah waited in their beat-up Honda, breath fogging the glass. Just a burger and fries, please," Naomi's voice cracked, hating how desperate she sounded. Manager Dennis Park looked up from his phone, his lip curling as he took in her threadbare jacket, and the exhaustion etched into every line of her face. "We're closing early tonight. The sign says you're open until 11. It's barely 9:30. Dennis's laugh was cold, deliberate. "Maybe I don't feel like serving someone who looks like they crawled out of a dumpster." In the back corner booth, Jung Hoon Ki's hand stilled on his whiskey glass. The chatter around him faded. His dark eyes, usually bored and distant, sharpened with a dangerous focus as he watched the manager's cruel smile widen. Naomi's fingers trembled against the crumpled bills in her palm. She'd promised Leah dinner. Her daughter had eaten nothing but school lunch since yesterday morning, and the way Leah's face had lit up when Naomi mentioned getting real food from a restaurant, not another can of soup heated on their hot plate, made her chest ache. "Please," she whispered, hating herself for begging. "My daughter is waiting in the car. She's hungry. I have money." Dennis leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. The late-shift cook, a tired woman named Rosa, glanced up from the grill, but quickly looked away. No one challenged Dennis Park, not in this neighborhood diner his uncle owned, where he ruled like a petty tyrant over minimum-wage employees and late-night customers. "You got money?" Dennis's voice dripped with mockery. "Then maybe try McDonald's down the street. We have standards here." Naomi's jaw clenched. She wanted to scream, to throw the money in his smug face, to demand the basic human decency he clearly lacked. But she couldn't afford anger. Anger was a luxury for people who weren't one missed paycheck away from eviction. "Look at you," Dennis continued, his voice rising as if performing for an invisible audience. "Coming in here looking like that, expecting service. You people always think, 'Enough.'" The single word cut through the diner like a blade. Jung Hoon Ki rose from his corner booth with the fluid grace of a predator. He'd been sitting there for the past hour, nursing Johnny Walker Blue Label that Dennis had reluctantly pulled from the locked cabinet, one of the few customers who knew quality when he saw it and had the money to demand it. At 6'2", with broad shoulders that filled out his tailored black coat, Hoon Ki commanded attention without trying. His dark hair was swept back, revealing sharp cheekbones and a jawline that could cut glass. But it was his eyes that made Dennis step back. Cold, calculating, absolutely devoid of mercy. The intricate phoenix tattoo wrapping around Hoon Ki's neck was partially visible above his collar, its wings seeming to flex as he moved. In certain circles of Chicago's underworld, that phoenix was as recognizable as a business card. It meant power. It meant connections that could bury a man 6 feet under without leaving a trace. "You will serve her," Hoon Ki stated, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Not a request, a command. Dennis's face paled. Who do you think?" Hoon Ki moved with shocking speed, crossing the distance between them in 3 strides. He didn't touch Dennis, didn't need to. He simply existed in the same space, radiating a danger that made the temperature drop. "You will apologize to this woman." Hoon Ki's Korean-accented English was precise, controlled. "You will prepare the best meal your pathetic kitchen can manage, and you will give her whatever else she needs. Look, man, I don't know who you think you are." Hoon Ki's hand shot out, not touching Dennis but slamming palm first against the counter beside him. The sound cracked through the diner like a gunshot. Rosa dropped her spatula. The 2 other customers, college kids sharing a plate of fries, froze mid-bite. "Jung Hoon Ki," he said quietly, letting the name hang in the air. "Perhaps you've heard of me. Perhaps not. Either way, you will do as I say. Now." Recognition flickered across Dennis's face, followed by genuine terror. Everyone in Chicago's Koreatown knew that name, even if they'd never seen the face. Jung Hoon Ki controlled more than businesses. He controlled territory, loyalty, and fear. Dennis stumbled over his words. Yes, sir, right away. I'm sorry, Don't apologize to me. Hoon Ki's gaze never wavered. Apologize to her. Dennis turned to Naomi, who stood frozen, her mind struggling to process what was happening. Ma'am, I apologize. I was completely out of line. Let me get that order started for you. On the house. Naomi blinked. I have money. I can pay. Keep your money, Hoon Ki said, his voice softening fractionally as he finally looked at her directly. For a moment, their eyes met, and Naomi felt something shift in the air between them, a connection she couldn't name, didn't understand, but felt in her bones. She was beautiful, he realized with surprise, not in the polished way of the women who threw themselves at him in high-end clubs, but in a raw, authentic way that made his chest tighten unexpectedly. Her dark skin glowed under the harsh lights, exhaustion unable to dim the strength in her features. Her natural hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, revealing the elegant line of her neck. Thank you, Naomi managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Hoon Ki inclined his head slightly. Your daughter, what does she like? How did you know? You said she was waiting in the car. He gestured to Rosa. Prepare a full meal. Burgers, fries, whatever comfort food you have. Make it enough for two, add dessert. Rosa nodded rapidly, already moving to fulfill the order. Hoon Ki reached into his coat and pulled out his wallet, extracting several $100 bills. He placed them on the counter. This should cover it. The rest is a tip for Rosa, who clearly works harder than her boss deserves. Then he did something that surprised even himself. He pulled a business card from his pocket, sleek black with silver lettering, just a phone number and a name. If you ever need help again, he said to Naomi, pressing the card into her trembling hand, call that number. Before she could respond, Jung Hoon Ki walked out into the December night, leaving Naomi holding a business card that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Naomi sat in her car, hands still shaking as Leah devoured the burger and fries. The little girl's eyes had nearly popped out of her head when Naomi emerged from the diner carrying 2 large bags, the smell of hot food making Leah bounce in her seat. Mama, this is so good, Leah mumbled through a mouthful of fries, ketchup on her chin. Don't talk with your mouth full, baby. But Naomi smiled, her heart swelling as she watched her daughter eat. This was all she'd wanted, to see Leah smile, to give her one good meal. The business card sat in her lap, the black surface seeming to absorb the dim parking lot light. Just a phone number, no address, no company name, just Jung Hoon Ki in elegant silver script. She should throw it away. Everything about that man screamed danger. The way Dennis had reacted, the terror in his eyes, the absolute authority in Hoon Ki's voice. These weren't the markers of a good man. They were the markers of someone powerful, someone dangerous. But he'd helped her when no one else would. Mama, who was that man? Leah asked, setting down her burger to look at Naomi with those 2 wise eyes. Her daughter had grown up fast, learned to read situations and people the way some kids learn to read books. Just someone who was kind, Naomi said carefully. Finish your food, baby, we need to get home. What Naomi didn't know, couldn't know, was that Jung Hoon Ki sat in his own car 3 rows back, engine idling, watching them through the December darkness. He told himself he was simply ensuring they got home safely, that this was no different from the dozens of other times he'd quietly intervened when he witnessed injustice. He'd built his reputation on being ruthless, yes, but fair. He protected what was his, punished those who deserved it, and occasionally, very occasionally, helped those who couldn't help themselves. But as he watched Naomi's beat-up Honda sputter to life and pull out of the parking lot, something twisted uncomfortably in his chest, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years, not since before his father had dragged him into the family business at 16, teaching him that emotion was weakness and compassion was a liability. Hoon Ki's phone buzzed. A text from Min Jun, his second in command. Rivera situation handled. 3 units moved as requested. He responded with a single word: good. Then he put the car in gear and followed at a distance, keeping Naomi's taillights in view. The route took them from the nicer part of Chicago's northwest side into neighborhoods where streetlights flickered and storefronts wore metal gates like armor. Naomi's car coughed and wheezed, but somehow kept moving, pulling finally into the parking lot of a rundown apartment complex on Kimball Avenue. Hoon-Ki parked across the street, watching as Naomi and Leah climbed out. The little girl clutched the takeout bag like treasure, skipping beside her mother despite the late hour. Naomi's hand stayed protectively on Leah's shoulder as they navigated the cracked sidewalk and disappeared into a ground-floor unit. Through the uncurtained window, Hoon-Ki could see into their apartment. It was barely larger than his closet. A pull-out couch, a small table, a kitchenette with a hot plate instead of a stove. But Naomi was setting out the food like it was a feast, and Leah was already pulling out paper towels to use as napkins. His phone buzzed again. Min-jun. "Boss, do you need anything? It's late." Hoon-Ki stared at that window, at the image of mother and daughter sharing a simple meal with such joy, and felt something crack inside his carefully constructed walls. "Run a background check," he typed. "Naomi Sinclair. Lives at 3847 N Kimball Ave, Unit 2B. I want to know everything. Work, debts, threats, anyone who might be causing problems. On it. Should I ask why? No, he should leave. This wasn't his business. This woman and her child were nothing to him. He'd played the hero for one night. That should be enough. But Jung Hoon-Ki didn't leave. He sat in his Mercedes, engine running for warmth, and watched that window until the lights went out at midnight. The next morning, Min-jun delivered a folder to Hoon-Ki's office at the Korean import business that fronted their real operations. Hoon-Ki flipped it open, his jaw tightening with each page. Naomi Sinclair, age 32. Single mother, worked 2 jobs, morning shift at a medical supply warehouse, evening cleaning office buildings. Behind on rent by 3 months, threatened with eviction. Her daughter Leah attended underfunded public school but maintained straight A's. No family support. Naomi's mother had passed 2 years ago, and Leah's father had never been in the picture. The most concerning detail came on the last page. Naomi's landlord, Victor Petrov, had a reputation. He ran a building full of vulnerable tenants and was known for collecting when they couldn't pay rent in cash. 3 women in that building had disappeared into Chicago's trafficking networks in the past year. Hoon-Ki's hands clenched around the folder. Min-jun, his second-in-command, appeared in the doorway. "Boss?" "Victor Petrov. I want to know every business he runs, every debt he owes, every weakness he has." Hoon-Ki's voice was ice. "And I want someone watching Unit 2B, 24 hours. If Petrov or anyone associated with him approaches that apartment, I want to know immediately." Min-jun's eyebrows rose fractionally, the only sign of his surprise. "Understood. Should I ask?" "You never ask," Hoon-Ki interrupted. "You just do." After Min-jun left, Hoon-Ki turned to the window of his office, looking out over Chicago's skyline. He was making a mistake. He knew it. Getting involved with civilians, especially vulnerable ones, only created complications. But when he closed his eyes, he saw Naomi's face in that diner. The desperation, the dignity despite humiliation, the love for her daughter that made her swallow her pride and beg. And he knew, with absolute certainty, that he couldn't walk away. 3 days later, Naomi found an envelope slipped under her door. She'd just gotten home from her warehouse shift, every muscle aching, looking forward to the precious 2 hours she had before her cleaning job started. Leah was at her friend Jasmine's apartment upstairs, doing homework and enjoying the stability of a household with 2 parents and regular meals. Naomi bent to pick up the envelope, her stomach dropping when she saw the landlord's name in the return address. Another eviction notice, another impossible demand. But when she opened it, her breath caught. The eviction notice was there, marked paid in full with today's date. 3 months of back rent, plus next month's payment, all settled. At the bottom, a handwritten note from the property management company. Account current. No further action required. Naomi's hands trembled as she stared at the paper. This was impossible. She hadn't paid anything. She barely had enough for groceries, let alone 4 months of rent totaling nearly $5,000. Her eyes fell on the business card, still tucked in her wallet where she'd kept it against all logic. No, he couldn't have. Why would he? She grabbed her phone, fingers hovering over the number on the card. She shouldn't call. This kind of help came with strings, everyone knew that. Men like Jung Hoon Ki didn't give without expecting something in return. But she had to know. The phone rang once before a deep voice answered. Ms. Sinclair. Not a question. He knew it was her, had probably been waiting for her call. How did you... She stopped, rephrased. My rent. Did you pay my rent? Silence stretched between them. Naomi could hear city sounds in the background. Traffic, voices, the distant wail of a siren. Your landlord, Hoon Ki said finally, his voice measured, had some outstanding debts. We came to an arrangement. Your rental situation was part of that arrangement. I can't accept this. But even as she said it, Naomi felt the weight of survival pressing down. 3 months of breathing room. Leah staying in the same school, in the same neighborhood. Not having to choose between food and a roof over their heads. It's already done. A pause. I asked for nothing in return, Ms. Sinclair. I'm asking for nothing now. Consider it an investment in fairness. Nothing's free. Naomi's voice hardened with experience. There's always a price. Perhaps. She could hear something in his tone. Not amusement exactly, but acknowledgement. But sometimes the price is simply allowing someone to help. Can you accept that? Naomi pressed her palm against her forehead, feeling a headache building. Why? Why would you help me? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Another long pause. When Hoon Ki spoke again, his voice was quieter, almost vulnerable. My mother cleaned office buildings. 3 jobs, 16-hour days, trying to support me after my father died. He stopped as if surprised by his own words. I remember what her hands looked like, what her face looked like when she thought I wasn't watching. So when I see a mother working herself to death to feed her child while men like Dennis Park mock her for it, I act. Naomi's throat tightened. I'm sorry about your mother. Don't be. She would have liked you. Your strength. Your devotion to your daughter. A car horn blared in his background. I have to go. But Miss Sinclair? If Victor Petrov or anyone else causes you problems, you call that number. Understand? I don't understand any of this, Naomi whispered. You don't have to. Just be safe. You and Leah. The line went dead. Naomi stood in her tiny apartment, staring at her phone. This man, this dangerous man, knew her daughter's name, was watching over them somehow. Should that terrify her? It did. But beneath the fear was something else, something that felt dangerously close to hope. What Naomi didn't see was Victor Petrov, sitting in Jung Hoon Ki's downtown office 2 hours earlier, sweating through his expensive suit. You understand the terms? Hoon Ki sat behind his desk, fingers steepled, utterly calm. Yes, I understand. Victor's Russian accent thickened with stress. The building, I sell it to your company, below market rate, and the tenants remain, Hoon Ki interrupted, at reduced rent, with actual repairs completed, or I let certain people know about your side business, the one involving young women and work opportunities in Eastern Europe. Victor's face went grey. That's not, don't insult me with lies. Hoon Ki's voice could have frozen vodka. I have documentation, photos, testimony from 3 survivors who would be very interested in speaking with federal investigators. He leaned forward. But if you cooperate, if you sign these papers and disappear from Chicago by the end of the week, that evidence remains private. Victor's hands shook as he reached for the pen. There's one tenant, Unit 2B. She owes... Her account is paid in full, Hoon-Ki stated. By me, personally. You will file the paperwork showing zero balance and send her written confirmation. Today. This is about her. One woman. Hoon-Ki's eyes went dead cold, the look that made hardened criminals reconsider their life choices. Sign the papers, Victor, before I change my mind about letting you walk out of here. Victor signed. Hoon-Ki had his assistant notarize the documents and escort Victor out through the back entrance. Minjun entered as Victor left. Boss, the surveillance reports came in. Petrov had approached Miss Sinclair twice this week, implied alternative payment methods. Hoon-Ki's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. He won't approach her again. The building is ours now. Put in competent management. I want repairs started immediately, starting with Unit 2B. New appliances, proper heating, security upgrades. And if Miss Sinclair asks questions, tell management to say the new owner is making improvements. Nothing more. Hoon-Ki turned back to his computer. She doesn't need to know. But as he tried to focus on quarterly reports from their legitimate businesses, his mind kept returning to Naomi's voice on the phone. The suspicion, yes, but also the exhaustion, the burden of carrying everything alone. Young Hoon-Ki had built an empire on knowing when to strike and when to wait. He'd always been patient, but patience had never felt this difficult before. The transformation of Naomi's building happened faster than she thought possible. Within a week, maintenance crews appeared, actually repairing things that had been broken for months. The flickering hallway lights were replaced. The broken front door lock was fixed. Her apartment received a new refrigerator when hers finally died, and the landlord, a new property management company now, insisted it was part of standard upgrades. Naomi knew better. She wasn't stupid. These upgrades all traced back to one man. She tried to ignore it, tried to just accept the help and move forward. But every improvement felt like another thread connecting her to young Hoon-Ki, and she didn't know if those threads were a safety net or a spider's web. It was the new stove that finally broke her resolve. She came home to find installation workers finishing up, replacing the ancient hot plate she'd been using with an actual range that looked like it belonged in a magazine. "There's been a mistake," she told the workers. "I didn't order this." "No mistake, ma'am. Work order from management." The lead installer checked his clipboard. "Says here all units are getting upgraded appliances. You're just first on the list." After they left, Naomi grabbed her phone and the business card she'd memorized, but couldn't bring herself to throw away. This time she didn't hesitate. "You have to stop," she said when he answered. "Miss Sinclair." "Naomi, if you're going to interfere with my entire life, you can call me Naomi." She paced her small living room, anger and confusion warring inside her. "The rent, fine. Maybe I can accept that as some kind of debt settlement with Victor. But this new appliances, building repairs, this isn't just helping, this is—" "What?" His voice held a challenge. "What is it?" "Control." The word came out sharp. "This is you controlling my life, making decisions for me, and I didn't survive the last 10 years by letting men make my decisions." Silence. Naomi heard him exhale slowly. When he spoke again, his voice was different, raw in a way she hadn't heard before. "You're right. I apologize." A pause. "I'm not accustomed to asking permission. In my world, I see a problem, I fix it. But you're not a problem to be fixed. You're a person, a strong person who deserves to make her own choices." Naomi's anger deflated slightly. She hadn't expected that, the acknowledgement, the actual apology. "Then why?" she asked, softer now. "Why do you care so much?" "I told you." "My mother—" "No." Naomi cut him off. "It's more than that. You didn't just pay some bills, you bought an entire building. You're watching over us. Why?" The silence stretched so long she thought he might not answer. When he did, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I don't know." 3 words that sounded like they cost him everything. "I've spent 20 years building walls, Naomi, becoming exactly what my father trained me to be. Ruthless, efficient, untouchable. And then I saw you in that diner fighting for your daughter with nothing but dignity and love, and something in those walls cracked. Naomi's breath caught. Her hand pressed against her chest, feeling her heart race. That scares the hell out of me, Hoon-Kee continued. Because caring about people makes you weak in my world. It makes you a target. But I can't seem to stop. Can't stop thinking about you, about Leah, about whether you're safe, whether you're eating, whether some predator like Petrov is circling. Hoon-Kee. His name felt strange on her tongue. Intimate. Tell me to stop, he said. If this is unwanted, if I'm crossing lines you don't want crossed, tell me and I'll disappear. I'll make sure you're protected, but from a distance. You'll never hear from me again. Naomi closed her eyes. This was the smart choice, the safe choice. Tell this dangerous man to leave her alone, accept the gifts he'd already given, and move on with her life. But when she opened her mouth, different words came out. I want to meet you, not on the phone, in person, because I need to look you in the eye and understand what this is, what you want from me, what I might be getting into. Tomorrow, he said immediately. There's a cafe on Milwaukee Avenue, Goddess and the Baker. It's public, safe. Meet me there at 2 o'clock. I have work until 1:30. I'll wait. A pause. Naomi, bring Leah if that makes you feel safer. I would never... I want you to feel safe. After they hung up, Naomi stood in her new kitchen, surrounded by upgrades she didn't ask for but desperately needed, and wondered what the hell she was doing. Her phone rang again. This time it was Marcus, her ex-boyfriend from 2 years ago, the one who'd promised to help with Leah, then disappeared when he found out Naomi expected actual commitment. Heard you got a new boyfriend. Marcus's voice was ugly with jealousy. Some Asian guy buying you shit. Must be nice, trading up like that. Naomi's blood went cold. How did you... Marcus, are you watching me? Don't flatter yourself. Janelle saw you, said your building's getting all fixed up, new appliances and everything. Figured you must be putting out for someone with money. The crude words made her stomach turn. Stay away from me, Marcus. I'm serious. Or what? Your sugar daddy gonna come after me? He laughed. Nah, I think I might come by. Remind you what you're missing. Maybe meet this guy, see if he knows what kind of woman he's really dealing with. The line went dead. Marcus shouted something. Then the phone clattered like it had been knocked from his hand. 30 seconds later, Naomi's phone buzzed with a text from Hoon-Kee's number. You won't be hearing from Marcus again. If he tries to contact you, call me immediately. She should be scared, should be horrified that this man had the power and reach to intervene in her life within seconds. Instead, for the first time in 10 years, Naomi Sinclair felt protected, and that terrified her more than anything. The cafe was everything Hoon-Kee promised, bright, warm, full of people, but with quiet corners for private conversation. Naomi arrived at 2:15, fashionably late because she refused to seem too eager, even though she'd been checking the clock every 5 minutes during her shift. He sat at a corner table, and Naomi's steps faltered when she saw him. The man from the diner had been imposing, dangerous. This man was devastating. He wore black jeans and a white button-down shirt with the top 4 buttons undone, revealing the intricate phoenix tattoo wrapping around his throat, its wings seeming to shimmer with each movement. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his features sharp and aristocratic. But it was his eyes that held her, dark, intense, tracking her every movement, with a focus that made her skin tingle. Every woman in the cafe had noticed him, but his attention never wavered from Naomi. She'd chosen her outfit carefully. Her best jeans, a deep burgundy sweater that brought out the warmth in her dark skin, her natural hair styled in defined curls that framed her face. She'd even put on makeup, which she rarely bothered with anymore. The way Hoon-Kee's eyes darkened when he saw her made every minute of effort worthwhile. You came, he said, standing as she approached. The formal gesture surprised her. I said I would. Naomi slid into the seat across from him, putting the small table between them like a barrier. I don't break promises. Neither do I. His voice was quiet, sincere. "Thank you for giving me this chance." A waitress appeared, too cheerful and clearly interested in Hoon Ki. He ordered for both of them without asking, coffee for himself, a mocha latte for Naomi, plus an assortment of pastries. "How did you know I like mochas?" Naomi asked after the waitress left. "I didn't, but you smell like chocolate and vanilla." I took a guess. The observation, the fact that he'd been close enough to notice how she smelled, made heat rise in Naomi's cheeks. "So," she started, needing to break the tension, "are we going to talk about the Marcus situation?" Hoon Ki's expression hardened fractionally. "What do you want to know? What did you do to him?" "I had a conversation with him. Explained that contacting you again would be unwise." At her skeptical look, he added, "I didn't hurt him. I simply made it clear that you're under my protection now, and crossing that line would have consequences he'd prefer to avoid." "Your protection?" Naomi tested the words. "That's what this is?" "That's part of it." Hoon Ki leaned forward, his hands flat on the table. "But let me be clear about something, Naomi. I'm not a good man. I run an organization that operates in shadows. I make decisions that would horrify most people. I've done things I can't take back, things I don't regret, because they were necessary." "Then why are you telling me this?" "Because I won't lie to you, ever." His eyes held hers. "You deserve to know exactly what I am before you decide if you want me in your life. I'm dangerous. Being close to me puts you at risk. Anyone who knows you matter to me will see you as a potential weakness, a way to get to me." Naomi's mouth went dry. "That's supposed to make me feel better." "No, it's supposed to give you the truth." He paused as their drinks arrived. "But here's the rest of the truth. I'm drawn to you in a way I don't fully understand. Your strength, your dedication to Leah, the way you refuse to break even when the world is crushing you. You make me want to be something better than what I am." "I can't make you better," Naomi said quietly. "I can barely keep my own life together." "You're doing more than that. You're raising an incredible daughter on your own. You're surviving against odds that would break most people. You're maintaining your dignity and your values when it would be so easy to compromise them." Hoon Ki's voice dropped lower. "You don't need to make me better. You already inspire me to try." Naomi's hands trembled around her cup. This man, this dangerous, powerful man, was looking at her like she hung the moon, like she was something precious worth protecting. It had been so long since anyone looked at her that way. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not of you, of this, of what it might mean." "Good." Hoon Ki reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers but not touching, asking permission. "You should be scared. This isn't simple. It won't be easy, but Naomi, I swear to you, I will never hurt you, I will never control you, I will protect you and Leah with everything I have, but I will never cage you. Your choices remain yours." Naomi looked at his outstretched hand. This was the moment, the choice that would change everything. She thought of Leah, home with Jasmine's family, happy and fed and safe for the first time in months. She thought of the new stove, the paid rent, the security of knowing Marcus wouldn't come back. She thought of the loneliness that had been her constant companion since Leah's father left, the exhaustion of carrying everything alone. And she thought of this man who'd stepped out of the shadows to defend her when no one else would. Naomi placed her hand in his. Hoon Ki's fingers closed around hers, warm, strong, careful. He brought her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles that sent electricity racing up her arm. "Whatever this is," Naomi whispered, "we do it honestly. No more surprises, no more decisions made for me. Deal." His thumb stroked across her skin. "Partners. In whatever this becomes." Outside, snow began to fall across Chicago, soft and clean, covering the city in white. Inside the cafe, Naomi Sinclair and Jung Hoon Ki sat together, hands joined across the table, beginning something neither of them fully understood, but both were willing to risk everything to explore. The Korean Mafia boss had finally found something worth more than power. And the single mother had finally found someone who saw her as more than her struggles. Together they were about to discover that the most dangerous thing in the world wasn't bullets or betrayal. It was hope. Leah's laughter echoed through Hoon Ki's penthouse as she chased his Jindo dog around the living room. The white dog, named Bora, which meant purple in Korean, and made Leah giggle every time, was Hoon Ki's gift for Leah's 11th birthday last month. Naomi stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the Chicago sunset paint the sky in oranges and purples. Behind her, she felt more than heard Hoon Ki approach, his arms sliding around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. "Happy," he murmured against her hair. "Terrified," Naomi admitted. "Every day I wake up thinking this might be the day it all falls apart." "It won't." His arms tightened. "I won't let it." They'd been together 6 months now, officially, publicly, despite the raised eyebrows and whispered speculation. Naomi still worked, though Hoon Ki had helped her find a single better-paying job that gave her actual work-life balance. She still lived in her apartment, though she spent most nights here in his space, in his arms. Leah had adapted with the resilience of children, accepting Hoon Ki as a steady presence who made her mother smile and never made promises he didn't keep. The relationship wasn't perfect. They fought about his overprotectiveness, about the darkness in his world that sometimes spilled into theirs. But they always came back to each other, always chose each other. "Mama, Hoon Ki, come help me teach Bora to sit," Leah called. Naomi turned in Hoon Ki's arms, rising on her toes to kiss him softly. "Ready to play family?" His smile was rare, genuine, reserved only for these moments. Always.